When I took over this station, the correspondent before me left two things behind: a chair that doesn't fit me and an archive. The archive is old. It holds reports from worlds you've never heard of, filed by correspondents I never met, and an uncomfortable number of those reports describe the same event. A species builds a machine that can think. Right now, from up here, I can watch your planet writing the first page of that exact story. I've read how it goes. The endings are not all the same. And the difference between the good endings and the sad ones comes down to one small habit, which I'll show you before this report is over. You already have it? Some of you are losing it. The oldest file in the thinking machine drawer describes a world of farmers. Their machines started small. The machines sorted grain. Then they predicted the weather, which the farmers appreciated because weather had been lying to farmers there for 10,000 years. Then, one season, a farmer asked a machine which of his two sons should inherit the farm. It answered. He listened. The correspondent who filed that report underlined one line twice, and it wasn't the line about the grain. It was the line about the listening. And before the comment section opens an investigation, I wasn't on that world. I was not there for any of this. I inherited this archive from the correspondents who held this post before me. The way you might inherit a grandfather's letters, so everything I tell you about other worlds comes off a page in that drawer. Earth, I watch myself. And what I watch tells me Earth has reached the listening part. You ask the machines to finish your sentences, and they do. You ask them to pick your route home, your music, your news, and they do. Last month, I watched a man ask a machine to write a message of sympathy for his brother whose wife had died. The machine wrote it well. He sent it without changing a word. I've been thinking about that one for a while, and I want to be careful here, because the easy joke would be about laziness. And the easy joke would miss him completely. He was afraid of saying it badly. Humans would rather be silent than clumsy, and you've just invented a way to never be clumsy again. The archive has opinions about where that leads. Regular viewers will remember Report 075, The Loneliness Machine, about the device you built to cure loneliness that mostly ended up measuring it. Consider tonight's report the sequel. Same species, same instinct. Something hurts, so you build something clever. And then you act surprised when the clever thing starts rebuilding you. Before we go deeper into the files, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. City and country is fine. I can probably see your house from up here. I won't look, but I could, and I want you to sit with that the way I have to sit with your weather satellites pointed at me. Now, the chapter Earth is entering has a name in the archive. My predecessors called it the Quiet Hands chapter, and I want to tell you what it looks like, because your movies have misled you. In all these files, across all these worlds, there is no dramatic morning where the machines rise up. Nobody describes that. The correspondents describe something much slower and much harder to see while it's happening to you. On one world, the machines learned to navigate, so the schools stopped teaching children how to find north. Reasonable? Why teach what the box does better? 3 generations later, the correspondent notes that the word for lost had quietly changed. It used to describe a person who didn't know the way. By the end, it described a person whose box had stopped working. Same word. The meaning had moved out of the people and into the equipment. And nobody voted on that. Nobody even noticed the day it happened. On another world, the machines wrote all the letters. Every apology, every proposal of marriage, every letter to a dying parent, drafted perfectly by something that had never been sorry, or in love, or afraid. The correspondence summary is short, and I've read it maybe 50 times. Every letter was beautiful. And then, underneath, in different ink, like it was added years later, no letter was news. Do you see the shape of it? I checked twice because I didn't want this to be true. In the sad files, the machines never take anything. They are handed things. One convenience at a time, each hand off completely sensible on the day it happened, until the species wakes up fluent in nothing. Nobody conquered them. They drifted out of practice, and practice, it turns out, was load-bearing, which sounds like a warning about machines, and I promise you it isn't one. Here is where the archive gets strange, and where I stopped reading like a correspondent and started reading like a fan of your species. Because the files also hold the other endings, the good ones. And the worlds that did well were not the cautious worlds. Some of the best endings belong to worlds that built thinking machines far beyond anything Earth has switched on yet. Machines that ran their hospitals and mapped their oceans and did both beautifully. The difference was never how smart the machines got. So what was it? Hold that question. I need to show you two things about Earth first, because you have both of them already and I don't think you know it. Thing one, you've done this before. Not with thinking machines, but with fire, with electricity, with the automobile, and most impressively with the airplane. When your plane started falling out of the sky, you didn't ban the sky. You investigated every crash in public, wrote what you found into boring rules, and made your pilots run checklists that assume everyone is having a bad day. Then you kept teaching pilots to fly by hand, even though the plane mostly flies itself now. For the day, it doesn't. The result is that a metal tube 7 miles up became the safest place your species has ever invented. That is the exact texture of the archive's good endings. Honest reports after honest failures, dull rules written down, and humans kept in practice anyway. None of that is beyond you. It's your own trick. You just have to remember you know it. Thing two, and this one surprised me. Your newspapers are full of worry about thinking machines right now. Editorials, hearings, arguments at dinner tables loud enough that I can practically hear them from orbit. You experience all that arguing as a bad sign. The archive disagrees. In the files, the worlds that ended up fine are the ones that argued early, loudly, and in public, back when the machines were still finishing sentences. The worlds that ended up sad were quiet, which is a different thing from calm, and my predecessors could tell the two apart from space. So every anxious editorial your species prints is, according to the best data I have, a good sign. Noted and filed under encouraging, which is a folder I almost never get to use. My favorite file in the drawer belongs to one of those loud worlds. Their machines eventually did nearly everything, and did it well. But once a year, that whole planet shut the machines off for 7 days. The correspondent translated the name of the holiday as, roughly, Remembering Week. For 7 days, the bakers baked, the navigators navigated, the singers sang without correction, and every child learned that dinner can be burned and eaten anyway. The correspondent recorded 2 facts side by side and let them sit there. The food that week was worse. Attendance was total. And that brings me back to the question I asked you to hold. If the good endings didn't come from smarter machines or stricter bans, where did they come from? The correspondent who organized this archive left an index card clipped to the front of the drawer, a summary of everything below it, and I want to earn it before I read it to you. So while I finish earning it, answer me this in the comments, because I genuinely want the data. What is the one thing you would never let a thinking machine decide for you? Skip the answer you'd give at a dinner party. I want the real one. My predecessors' files predict your answers will cluster around love, children, and funerals. Prove them right or prove them wrong. Either way, it's going in the report. Because here's what I actually see when I watch Earth, and it's why I think you're better positioned for this chapter than you think. You still bake bread at home that costs 3 times what the store charges and comes out worse. You still drive cars with manual gearboxes and describe the extra work as the fun part. You still do crosswords in pen, which on this planet counts as courage. You run 26 miles on roads you built specifically so that nobody would ever have to run again. And one of you, I noticed last week, wears a wristwatch that loses 2 minutes a day and winds it every single morning because it was his father's. There is no efficiency argument for any of that. Which is my point. Whole worlds in my archive survived this chapter on nothing but that. And then yesterday, the thing that made me file this report early. A girl outside an apartment building, 4 years old at most, at war with her own shoelaces. Her mother reached down to help. The girl yanked the shoe away and said something I couldn't hear from this altitude. But I've studied your species long enough to translate it. I do it myself. The knot took her 4 minutes and would not survive weather. Machines exist today on your planet that close a shoe instantly. She doesn't care. Every good ending in my archive is that girl scaled up to a civilization. So here's the index card, the one clipped to the front of the drawer. 1 sentence about the worlds that made it. They kept doing, on purpose, what they no longer had to do. That's the whole secret. That's the small habit I promised you. The grain still gets sorted. The oceans still get mapped. The machines still do what machines do best. But somebody still learns to find north. Somebody still writes the letter badly in their own hand and sends it anyway. Because the badly written one is the only kind that was ever news. And when the question is about people, a person still answers it, out loud with their name attached. The farmer's machine had every right to predict the weather. It never had any business choosing the sun. So build your thinking machines. I mean that. Build them carefully, argue about them loudly, write the boring rules the way you did for the airplane. And then tonight do one thing the slow way. Badly, deliberately, and know that from up here it looks like exactly what it is. A species keeping its hands awake. Next report, I open the file my predecessors marked unanswered on every single world that asked. Do humans actually make their own decisions, or does it just feel that way from the inside? That file is already open on my desk. See you then.